Right, and is thinking about it. All right, I believe we are officially live. Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein, and I'm your host this evening. And as you can see, we have a guest artist today. So everybody, please welcome Andrew Cook. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, for sure. So before I officially hand it off to you and we jump into all the fun things that you have planned for us today, I just wanted to remind everybody, if you are interested in what we are using throughout the show, make sure to go to the website, JerrysArtarama.com, and type in today's class code, which is JL295. So JL295. Once you type that in the search bar, the teacher's cart should come up and show you everything that we're going to be using.
Fantastic.
So, all right, I'm going to make you a little bit larger here so everybody can. Sorry, I gotta click the right button.
There's plenty of buttons to choose from. It's okay.
There we go.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. So I am Andrew Cook, and I'm the education manager for Fabriano and a number of other brands here in the US. And today I wanted to jump on with Emmy, and I'm really excited I get to talk to y'all about the Fabriano Black Black pads, the Fabriano Black Black paper. It comes in a bunch of different sizes, and we'll get kind of into that. But first, for those of you who aren't too familiar with Fabriano, I wanted to dive into a little bit of the history of Fabriano. So the first and most important thing is Fabriano's age. They have been making paper in the town of Fabriano, Italy since 1264. That's right. They are 759 years old, if my math is right. So they've been doing this for a while, and they are well practiced in making paper. And with that, they've invented a number of different innovations. They've come up with things like the watermark and paper sizing. So everybody who uses watercolor, we can thank Fabriano for some of those innovations that they came up with early on in the 13th century. But with that, I think that's kind of a little tidbit about the history. We can talk more. If anybody has questions, make sure to pop that in the chat. But I think, Emmy, we can dive right into playing with some of this stuff. That's what everybody's here for, right?
Oh, yes. And I am so excited about this. So let me switch our camera views around.
All right, I'm going to move my camera over. So I'm
right, perfect.
Turn off my face here for a minute.
All right, and then I'm going to pop back on here. And then we are going to switch it over to. There we go. All right, everyone's hopefully got the right views. I'm very excited. So this is me over on this side.
And this is me over here.
All right, so Andrew, what are we going to be doing with this black paper today?
So one of the first things I think I would like to dive into with the black paper is just talking through the shapes, the sizes, the weight, and some of the little keys that we see on the back of our paper pad here. So the black paper is a alpha cellulose paper. It's a really high quality paper pulp, essentially. It's not using any cotton. And that is really beneficial for us because cotton doesn't allow pigment to be retained the same way that alpha cellulose does. So with that cellulose, we're able to make sure that we use an artist grade black pigment in this paper, which means that it is extremely black.
Yeah, it is the blackest paper that is on the market, right?
It is. And I have, well, I thought I had a sample of some other black paper here. There it is.
And while you're grabbing that, I just want to say, can we appreciate this packaging? Because I'm a sucker for really good packaging, and this is just stunning. I love that, the glossy black on the matte black. It's a really lovely.
Isn't that fun? I really like that they chose to do that. It can make it a little difficult to photograph sometimes, but it is really beautiful in person. So I did grab that other paper, and this is actually a new paper from Fabriano that is also black and also completely light fast. But I wanted to show that the black is even more dark than that black paper there. I know I have lights on it, so it shows a little gray, but it is a black paper.
Yeah, no, you can really see the difference there.
And any paper on the market, you can take this up to. You can look in the art store or anywhere. You can grab something in your house and compare it to it, and this is always going to come out to be blacker. The folks at Fabriano say that this is the blackest black paper they have ever created.
All right, I'm definitely gonna be walking around with just a pad of black paper throughout the store, and like, but I definitely have been playing with this because you sent this to me a while ago, and I've just been dabbling with this paper, and I cannot agree more. It is so dark. It is really, really lovely to be like playing on as far as like putting the materials, especially the ones that you sent me that we're going to be playing with tonight. It's been just one of those like moments where you put it down and it really shows up, and it's just I can't explain. I have no words.
Well, and I'm looking forward to putting some of that paint and some of these oil pastels down too. But first, a few more details about the black paper that we're playing with. Excuse me. So Fabriano has created this in a couple of different sizes. We have it in the 8x8 square. We have it in the 9x12 pad that Emmy and I will be playing on today. And we have got it in an 11, to make sure I'm getting it right, and a little over 11 by 14 size as well. And they are 300 grams per square meter. Now with a paper like this, that doesn't translate exactly to something like a watercolor paper. Whereas a 300-pound watercolor paper is about 140 pounds. This is going to be a little less than 140 pounds, but it'll still take a variety of mixed media techniques very well for something that's completely alpha cellulose. Now, something that we all see on the back of our pads, or on some of our pads at least, is these little symbols here. And I wanted to talk a bit about those because it's something that a lot of us don't take a look at. So in here, you will see, let's see if I can get in the camera, that this is elemental chlorine free, which is a certification we see more often in Europe. And that just means that there's no chlorine bleach being added to this paper, which is going to degrade it or make it yellow over time.
Hold on one second. I'm going to actually make yours a little bit larger so they can really see that. There we go.
Okay. So there's that elemental chlorine free symbol there.
Nice.
And then next to that, you see this little symbol with a leaf on it, and that is an acid-free symbol. And a lot of people will think that acid-free and archival are the same, but that's not necessarily true. For something to be archival, we want it to have this symbol, this little infinity symbol here, and that is the long life ISO standard, a 9706. And that's basically a library standard, meaning that if something's put in storage, it's going to last forever. So those two things combined, the acid-free and the long life ISO standard, are going to mean that it is museum grade or archival. So we want to see those together. And then one symbol that we don't see on here, but that could be on here, is the one for hydropower. We'll see that on some of Fabriano's other papers. And that's because Fabriano uses hydroelectricity to power their facilities. So that's one that we'll sometimes see on their papers as well.
Nice.
So with that, I think we can start playing a little bit.
Yes, please. I'm very excited to put some. Okay, it looks like we switched. Sorry for the.
That's okay. I'm over so now I'm over here.
All right. So the materials we are going to be using today. Tell me a little bit about them.
Certainly. So, of course, our focus today is the Fabriano Black Black paper, but in order to show off a paper, we have to have some materials to use on it. So some of you who have seen me on here with Emmy before, you know that I also work very closely with the folks over in France at Sennelier. So today I have some Sennelier, our brand new iridescent watercolors. We've got all 12 colors between two sets, and those are here in front of us. We've got the introduction set and the pastels and metallic set. So what those 12 colors are going to look like, I put them in little pans here so that we could see them. And we've got yellow, orange, red, violet, light violet, blue, light blue, light green, green, copper, gold, and silver. So all of those are going to be really iridescent, and that's really going to sparkle and show up well on the black paper. Then, keeping in that same iridescent family, we've got Sennelier oil pastels that go down on this paper just lovely. And those are, I have a set of 12 here that has 10 iridescent colors in it. And those are just going to be fantastic to work on, fun to show up on there. And then, because I think we're going to play with some landscape motifs, I've got the Sennelier Oil Pastels landscape set of 24 here as well. And that's just got some bright colors that are going to really pop and let the iridescence really show up with them as well.
Oh, yes.
And then, of course, I just grabbed a white chalk pencil. Any brand will work. I'm using Cretacolor out of Austria today. Really enjoy their pencils, so I'm going to play with those just to do some sketched lines. But before we dive into some of the color stuff, let's just show how well something like a white pencil is going to show up on this paper. So
I don't actually have a white pencil on me, so
that's okay. That's okay.
I probably do have I have probably a mechanical pencil though. So
we can start playing with anything we want. If you want to use mechanical pencil, or if you, yeah, that's great, because then we can show the difference between the graphite gray and the white pencil on here as well.
So yeah, this is just a mechanical pencil that I use all the time. It's just nothing, like fancy or anything. It's just a normal mechanical pencil. So I think the lead is usually about like an HB. So there's the graphite on the black paper. So it does show up, and it's actually, let's test how well it erases, which is very, very easily.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paper surface on this, because it's all off of cellulose, is a very kind of subtle texture, but it's a really durable paper. Like, it's kind of stiff, but it takes a lot of abuse, a lot of erasing, a lot of scrubbing. Like, if I want to rub with my fingers, it's not going to pill up on me.
Oh yeah, I'm using a kneaded eraser on this, and it's actually, there's nothing other than the graphite coming up. There is nothing coming off that paper. There's no pilling. There's no damage to the paper. Now I do have another eraser down here somewhere, but I do know we have one question right now, and I have Amanda over here with all of our questions. So anybody who is looking to ask us something while we're live on the air, feel free to pop it in the chat. But what's that question we got, Amanda?
Is this watercolor paper, and does it come in blocks?
This is not a watercolor paper. It's kind of a multi-use paper. It's we don't actually define it, but a lot of people would call it kind of a stiff drawing paper. It does not come in blocks, just in pads and in single sheets. But the pads are what you're going to be able to find most places, and that's really where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. So the pads can be used for anything, a little watercolor, and we'll show that in a second. But because it's 100% alpha cellulose, it can have a little buckling if you're doing quite a bit of water on there. Actually, let's I'm going to take a timeout from this sketch, because I'll use my oil pastels on here in just a second to go over some of this. I was just going to scribble, but I ended up starting a little landscape painting. So we'll come back to that in a second. And
now I'm actually going to, because you did say something about the watercolor, one thing that I have found is that when I tape my paper down, which is exactly what I have it done here, this is just a single sheet taped down with 1-inch artist tape that is pH neutral. I found that if I do a little bit of watercolor on here and then let it dry, any kind of movement to the paper that does happen is very minimal, and it flattens itself out as long as I don't remove the tape before it's fully dry.
that is perfect. Taping down is always helpful.
Okay.
And I'm going to show what it's like if we don't tape it down, just to kind of see a worst case scenario here.
Oh yes. Now, when I was playing around with these, let me actually grab, I think it was this color. So I'm going to actually not go in with an iridescent or anything. This is just one of the, what is the color here? Venetian red, just a Venetian red oil pastel. And I'm going to sketch in my lines, kind of like what you were doing with the white, wow, why is that word? White pastel pencil?
Yep.
Is that the word I'm looking for? My words are failing me today. the white pastel pencil, like you were sketching in your composition, I'm going to do the same thing with the oil pastel, and then I'm going to watercolor on top. And I found that the oil pastel really does repel it because it's oil and water. But as long as I'm aware of that fact, it doesn't really, I'm not like fully covering it in. I'm just kind of doing some scribble lines. This is how I was starting my sketch before, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I like that.
Can this paper accept mineral spirits?
You know, it's not made for oil painting, but it will, you know, if you're using oil pastel, you can do a little bit. I would keep it pretty minimal though, because it can change the color and maybe even take some of that color out of the paper. You know, a lot of solvents like mineral spirits, we have to remember when we're working with anything with color, that a lot of those have been used in the dry cleaning industry. They're chemicals that are made to be, you know, remove things. So if we're going to be using mineral spirits or natural turpentine on anything, then sometimes that can pull more color out than we're expecting.
That's really good to know. So that's
So
the one
we
thing
can
I have not
see-
attempted putting any kind of like a solvent or anything on here myself.
So we can see, because I got this so wet right from the get-go, that it is buckling a bit. And especially I turned the paper pad upside down just so I would be working on the side that didn't have any glue, so we'd see exactly how much it's going to do this. I'm going to set it aside. We'll let it dry a bit, and then we'll have a look at it and see how it flattens back out in a few minutes. And then in the meantime, I'm going to do something similar over here, but I'm going to keep my water much more minimal where I've already been doing some of my sketching. Going to just use it to kind of sketch in some iridescent blue lines, get kind of a background going.
That's similar to what I am doing here. I'm trying to remember the sketch that I did kind of off the top of my head without having any of my reference photos or anything, but sort of a cave that's looking out into the ocean. I don't know if you guys can quite tell, but I'm going to add in to like the rocks and to the water area, the iridescent watercolor, just so I can get that sparkle. And then I'm going to let that dry. And then I'm going to put the oil pastels on top of that, because that was so much fun. Because then I could let a little bit of the sparkle shine, but not a ton.
That just looks amazing. That sketch is coming out beautifully right off the bat.
Love it.
So I've been doing a lot of little plein air studies, and some of them at night. And so this kind of informed what I'm doing now, some of these roadside shrubs and things that I've been taking a peek at. And I like the iridescent quality that I can get here, because it doesn't start to look too, you know, gaudy or out of place right away. I can actually just use it to get some of that night luminescence. And then from there, I'll start to play with the foreground a bit and get some of the effects that I'm getting in my other paintings. And for any of you who like to paint on site, the oil pastels and a pad are a wonderful little duo to go out with, just because they're so easy to travel with. You don't need a whole lot to get going. Just one box of pastels or two, and your pad, and you're ready to go.
Will you be able to use soft pastel and alcohol?
You could. The alcohol is a little bit more. It's a little more gentle than the mineral spirits, so you could do that. And soft pastel, it'll work. It's not a heavy tooth, so you get a much more gentle pastel surface, something a little more traditional. But that would work great.
I bet you that soft pastel. Actually, can you guys grab me some soft pastel? Yeah. I haven't tried the soft pastel on this black paper, but I have the pad over here, and I can definitely scribble a couple of colors on there because I bet you that would look amazing.
You're gonna try new things live in front of everyone?
No,
All
who am I? Crazy, crazy. Thank you.
right, I'm starting to dive in with some of these oil pastels.
Let me just grab.
When I'm doing this, I start by using a few dark colors because this is a night scene for me. And I'm just gonna fill in, but really loose. I leave a little patches peeking through.
I'm going to grab a little bit of the pastel here. Now, I don't have any of the alcohol on me, so I mean, oh, but look at that. That's pretty. And if you wanted to kind of soften the edges a little bit and have it fade out, oh, that would be gorgeous.
Oh, that does look fantastic.
I think my inner abstract artist coming out here. You guys know I do not do abstract art ever.
Ophelia was on earlier. I wonder if she'll be pleased to hear you say that.
Ophelia? Ophelia. That's why I'm channeling my inner abstract artist. Ophelia was on.
Oh, we were just talking about Ophelia.
In the best way possible, I swear.
Ophelia is a dear friend.
She is. She's amazing.
Do you have any tips for blending the oil pastels if you're not using spirit?
Yes, actually. Fingers. That's my favorite blending tool to use when it comes to oil pastels, especially because I believe every single one here is non-toxic, right?
That is accurate. So all of the oil pastels that we have here are going to have that AP symbol on them, which means that here, let's see if I can get that in the camera. So you see that little AP on there?
I'm going to actually make me smaller again, and there you go.
So
Yes.
that AP on your art supplies is going to mean that it's ACMI certified non-toxic. And if you see it as a CL, then the CL means caution label. So as an example of a CL, let's see. If I can find anything that's got a caution label on it. Nope, that's an AP. It's always good. So actually some of our metallic colors are going to have a CL on them because they have real metal in them. And things like copper, we're not going to want to be consuming. So let's see, get back in focus here. Sorry, everybody, I'm working on it.
Now, it doesn't include the watercolors that we're using on the show tonight, the ones in the iridescent sets.
Those are all AP.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but some of the oil pastels we're using have that CL symbol because they've got the real copper in them, and you don't want to swallow copper. So it just says harmful if swallowed. And then it has some additional.
Oh, it does. Sorry. I thought these were awesome. We know.
Almost all of them. Almost.
So the ones in the set, I'm just double checking. All the ones in the set look like they are AP certified non-toxic, the pastels, as well as the watercolors that we're using, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So yes, as I was like, I swore I double checked. I could have sworn I double checked that. Yeah. So everything that we're using tonight is non-toxic. So when it comes to that, as long as I'm 100% sure, and that's why I was like, I'm pretty sure I checked, I will blend oil pastels with my hands. Now, if that's something that you don't like, Andrew, do you have a preferred method of blending oil pastels?
So that I like that this question comes up because anytime I play with oil pastels, one of the things I like to show people, and I'm going to try and pull this a little closer again while I do it, is that I actually don't like to blend oil pastels. I like to use the colors themselves and push it around and get these great painterly qualities. just like I would with paint and a brush, get these kind of impressionistic qualities. And I won't blend it from there. I'll leave that kind of texture behind. And then as I add more layers to it, it's going to build up, push around that color. And I often won't use any solvents. I won't use my fingers. I mean, occasionally I might, smudge a little something, but most of the time I'm just using the pastels themselves.
But you guys will definitely see me blending mine a little later in the show, especially when I start doing that sky with a bright blue. So I've gotten my rocks here. Let me actually push this off to the side because then I can show you guys more up close. So I have everything on that gator board. I taped it down. Here are my sort of iridescent sparkles that I've blocked into my rocks. I love that gold. That's the gold, the copper, and the orange, I believe. Yeah, iridescent orange. So it's the two from the, which set is that? The pastels and metallic set. I have the gold and the copper, and then the introduction set, I believe, is the one that has the orange. So I'm going to be going a combination of the two different sets, but I love it. All right, now I need to bring in the cooler colors though. With the blues for the water, and you know exactly what blue I'm going to go for, right?
Oh, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the blue we were talking about earlier?
Is, I want to show this on camera. Hopefully I get this. It's just so pretty. I mean, there's the lighter blue. Sorry. This blue is like everything. I love that so much. All right, now I know we have more questions. So, Amanda?
Andrew said that the texture is not all that toothy. Would you compare it more like a smooth Bristol or a sketching paper?
Neither. I would say it's more like a vellum Bristol almost. It's not plate smooth. It's not super smooth, but it's not. Let's see if I can even show with maybe some of the sparkles there. But it's not going to have any real peaks and valleys in it.
Actually, I'm going to make you a little bit larger here. So I can really see that. There you go. It's a pretty smooth paper.
Yes, and then I'll move over here to where the actual paper is. You can see how smooth it is.
And it doesn't feel slick though. Yeah, that's really coming across, right? Yeah. But like I said though, that like where sometimes Bristol feels a little bit more kind of slick, this has a nice tooth to it.
And then how would it take colored pencils?
Really well. Exceptionally well. Yeah, it's heavy, it's durable, it'll take colored pencils. I mean, we saw as I was playing with this this white pencil, this is essentially kind of a white colored pencil, and it really grabs.
Oh yeah.
I can even get some fine detail in there.
I'm going to.
Now I think that's going to become a reflection. Oh, as I was doing that, I wasn't showing everybody. Sorry. I was off camera. All right, I'll keep going. So you can see. So that's all essentially a white colored pencil. So it'll layer really well.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think watercolor pencils would work?
They would. You would just want to watch out for that buckling. But let's go back to that sheet of paper that I showed everybody I was doing that wash on earlier. And if I show you the side of it here, you can see that even just as it's drying, that buckling is just super reduced. It's leveling out all by itself. So I'll set it aside and we'll let it keep drying and we'll take a look at it again. So as you're using it, it's going to buckle pretty significantly, but as long as you let it set aside and dry before your next layer, that buckling kind of sets itself down. Going back to the oil pastels here.
When it comes to the oil pastels, do they take as long as traditional oil paints to dry?
Good question. So oil pastels don't ever actually dry. These are gonna stay tacky on the surface of the paper. So we could use an oil pastel fixative like Sennelier's oil pastel fixative to kind of finish them and let it stay on there. Or we can frame them under glass, just like a traditional pastel painting. So, but as far as it being touch dry, it is never going to completely dry.
Yep. It's not the same kind of oil that you find in paints. It's a different kind, right? It's not a drying oil.
Exactly. So paints will have a drying oil, which is your linseed oil or your safflower oil, or walnut oil, or any of those kinds of oils. And with these, we have a mineral oil in here. And so it's a trade-off for the oil pastel because the mineral oil never dries, but it's also the thing that makes this oil medium archival on a surface like paper. If we were to take oil paint and paint on this paper, it would eat away at the paper over time and it would kind of diminish itself. But with the oil pastel, we're able to work on it and we don't have to worry about that. It's going to remain archival. So it's kind of, we're giving up the ability to dry for the ability to work on any surface we want.
That's probably the best way I've ever heard it described. Love that.
So if you frame an oil pastel, it's important for the painting not to be able to touch the glass then.
Correct.
Very, very true. Definitely don't want it to stick, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I almost forgot we have a purple watercolor.
We have 2 purple watercolors.
That's right. So I'm going to use the iridescent light purple. I'm over here making my own with the copper and the blue.
And I'm sure it's lovely.
It is quite lovely. I do love that. But so the iridescent purple has more of like a lilac-y kind of color, whereas that iridescent light purple has more of a blue violet kind of color. I feel like I added a little copper because I want to use this for my rocks up here as well.
Now, one quick note since you mentioned that is that the Sennelier's new iridescent watercolor are all artist grade. So unlike a lot of iridescent colors that will come as a grade of their own, these are within our L'Aquarelle line with all the rest of our artist quality watercolors.
Yeah.
So they're using the same pigments we use in our watercolors. So that blue that I really like, that has phthalo blue in it, or the light violet has dioxazine purple. Regular violet that's a little more lilac has some ultramarine violet in it. So there's just pure pigments in there in addition to mica.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
All right, so I think this is as far as I'm going to take it for the watercolors. So I'm going to pop those off the screen here and give you guys kind of a update. So she's sparkly, love it. So you can see a little bit of the buckling happening on the paper, which does go away because this is taped down. Now, this might hurt some of you, but I'm just gonna kind of flip it and make it now lay down on the bottom of that because I did this earlier and this was doing the exact same thing and you can see the buckling is pretty much gone. You might see a slight buckle right here, but I think that's because I had removed this from my table before it was fully dry, so that one little buckle kind of stayed, but that's one of those things that I can live with that. But Here's my, I would call this like an underpainting. My shiny underpainting.
I love it. And the qualities of the rocks in the cave are all there from the iridescent. It just kind of, it's almost sculptural.
Love it. I'm so excited. Okay, so now where? I'll pop that off. Side two. I'm going to start focusing on these watercolors or the oil pastels. So, do I start with shiny? Do I think I'm going to start with the landscapey colors. Like this lovely violet ochre, which is just like a mauve kind of color.
I love that you're using the violet ochre. That's one of my favorites.
I love this color.
I'm using one that's almost the same color, but just a little different, and that is Mummy. That's what I'm playing with down here in my foreground.
That's my second favorite. They're right next to each other too, and it makes me so happy.
Now, and Mummy, I think when we talked about Sennelier watercolors a few months ago, I got to talk a little bit about Mummy, but we might have some folks who didn't get to watch that here. So Mummy has some of my favorite history in the whole world of color.
Oh yeah?
That is that it is made out, or it is not any longer made out of, but was once made out of actual mummies. And the color, they would grind up the mummies, and the whole embalming process, the resins that they would use in that would form this oxidation within the mummies that they were using. It's been a long time since we've used mummies. Now we get it all very synthetically. So it's laboratory made rust, essentially, what creates the violet oxides we use now. But before, it was actual human rust that they were using, the oxides that were formed from that embalming process.
That's crazy to think. Imagine being the first guy to be like, you know what sounds like a great idea? Because I mean, I don't know how they came up with these things, but I do appreciate that we have the color mummy.
Yes. It is interesting to the history of color and how we got to them. And I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody recently about how lucky we are as artists now, because color has never been as available. We've never had so many colors in the history of time. And it's never been as inexpensive as it is now to get all of these colors that we use.
Oh yeah. I mean, imagine trying to be even a master painter back in the 1600s to the 1800s. They all had to grind their own pigments. They all had to make their own paints, all by hand. Or they had a, what's it called, an apprentice that also worked for them. Yeah. You had to be amazing to have an apprentice.
When we find paintings through history that are missing entire colors that we would have expected to be in them, and often it was that color either didn't exist in the way they needed it in the time, or that color was too expensive and they would save it till last. So we've seen some paintings where there might be like a religious icon painting, and it has Mary and Jesus, and Mary doesn't have all the robe is sketched in, but everything else is painted out fully. And it turns out the blue was the most expensive color to get. So they were saving it until they could afford it, and they never get to it.
It's crazy. Crazy to think.
And now blue is so easy for us to get to, so easy to use.
So let me show you guys a little bit of what I'm doing here. So you guys know I have that underpainting, right, where it's shiny, and now I'm putting the pastels on top that are not shiny, and it's covering up some of that, but it's making it kind of look like have you ever seen like a natural rock that comes out of like mines and stuff that have like the mica flakes kind of shining through them? And not the whole thing isn't shiny, but like you get those little sparkles that kind of are hidden. That's what I'm going for. I'm so excited. All right, but I do need to work on my sky here because it is not nighttime. And this is how much I love these pastels and like how well they work on this black paper, because that blue, this is the sky blue, which is, appropriate. If I just kind of carve that in around my rock shapes. That is now going to be a pretty blue sky.
Oh my goodness.
And just like that.
I think I just had the same experience that my cats have in the morning when I turn the light on. Like you just turned it from night to day for me.
Isn't that fun?
Immediately. It was like flicking a switch.
But I mean, I'm not even covering up all the little like black flecks from the paper. So that's still adding in like almost like a little bit of like shadow for the rocks. And now it's daytime.
Amazing.
But I want a more interesting sky. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit of white and kind of fade it. I feel like this is also one of those moments where like Amanda always yells at me because she's like, why are you so good? And it's just, you do one thing and all of a sudden it's a thing. That moment.
It's like how Katie says it's ugly till it's not.
Yep, it's ugly until it's not. You got to work through the ugly.
Or put it away for a while and it turns out it's not ugly. You were just looking at it with unfresh eyes.
Very true. Now here's how I blend my pastels because it's all non-toxic. Especially because I want my gradient of the sky to be nice and smooth, which it doesn't even have to be perfect, you know? Just want to smooth it out just a little bit. I do have pastels in my hand, and this is my secret weapon. Is a Soho oil wipe, the studio wipes.
Ooh, very nice.
Like a wet wipe for your studio, and they're biodegradable, which I love.
I wish I had some of those. I'm going to be scrubbing for a while, but I'm
Then
well
just stop.
practiced at scrubbing.
All right, so I think for my water here, I still want my water to sparkle. I'm going to use the iridescent blue, which is like a nice icy blue. What's this? Is transparent blue. This is the iridescent one. Now, do we have any questions while we're geeking out on our images?
Most people are just happy to watch. But you, just to confirm, are putting the oil pastel over the watercolor with no issue.
Yeah, not at all. Now, again, I did flip it. And so this is one that I did earlier today, and it is 100% dry. It is not wet. You do not want to put oil pastel on top of wet watercolor. That might be not nice.
It'll work. It'll just, as you're applying it, it'll feel funny.
Yeah.
And it does dry pretty rapidly. Like I'm going over an area where I had watercolor earlier, and it's already dry just from the beginning of the show. So it's not too terrible.
Oh
if you
yeah.
just wait a few minutes.
Now the one that I had that I was on the underside of this, I'm pretty sure it's dry by now. So even if you, like you were saying, it doesn't take that long. Especially for those of us who have no patience. Hence why I did this before the show. I'm gonna make a little bit of a shadow here. So I have that watercolor here that is combination of the purple and the copper. And it's supposed to be like reflecting the rocks down here. And I don't think I'm gonna really like opaquely cover up that area with the pastels. Kind of make it almost look like a little bit of a shimmer, but I want the darkness of that paper to kind of work for me. I'm using my finger to blend again.
Look how perfect that's turning out.
Look at yours. I love those greens.
But I'm going to
Ooh.
hold up mine to the camera here real close in a second. So I just
Mhm.
want to show some of the impasto that I like to achieve with these and
Yeah.
how bright it stays. Because everybody does ask me often if they need to smudge it with their fingers or blend it. And I'm really not about blending them too much. I just like to kind of squish together.
I guess that's a good question for those of you guys viewing right now. Are you team blend your oil pastels or are you team not blend? Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Blend or chunk?
Blend or not blend. And how many of you
Not
who
blend.
have blended have ever thought about not blending?
Right.
So I'm going to hold it up real close so everybody can see, because you can get so many layers in here.
Let me remove myself here so you really appreciate. Oh, look at that texture.
And you can just keep adding in and adding in, and it gets nice and thick.
Hmm.
But from a distance, it maintains, even in this watery area that I'm kind of doing.
And the paper is holding up so well. It's not having any kind of an issue whatsoever.
You know, that's 759 years of practice. They're pretty good at making paper.
Yes, that
And
is
I know I
very-
mentioned it in the beginning, but I like to say it again because nobody believes me the first time, is that this is still the paper, the Fabriano paper is still made in the town of Fabriano, Italy, where it started. So not the same people, obviously. Well, I hope not. But it's still using a lot of the same families, a lot of the same facilities, and they've just updated it as time has gone on.
cool. And I do need to know whether or not they have officially gotten the same people still working there. I feel like
You know, it's magical, so you never know. It could.
If they do, I have more questions. All right. I think for mine, still gonna try and get these non-metallic colors to kind of fill in my dark areas. So I can push that shine down a little bit, kind of create shadows. Right.
I think I am at a point where I'm going to start pulling out some of the iridescent oil pastels that I have not played with yet. I'm going to keep layering and get some of those on there.
Mm-hmm. Now, are there any of these colors that anybody in the chats are interested in seeing from these two sets that we have not pulled out and started using yet? Because we got all kinds of different greens. There's a couple yellows. In the iridescent ones, we have all of the sparkle golds, and there's pale gold, rich pale gold, red gold. There's the aluminum, which I love. I'm going to definitely be using that in my water here. Rich gold, red copper. Then they do have a black and a white that's not metallic, so you guys can know. And then they have over here is just the iridescent. Is this what, iridescent white? Yes, iridescent white. And I use the transparent blue. There's a reddish brown gold. Do you have any votes for colors so
We
far?
have the other sparkly ones.
These?
Also the purples have really been highlighted. And then also yellow and red.
Don't really have, are you talking about the purple watercolors?
Maybe.
Because I was like, there's not really any purple in the pastels. We have the blue, we have the red, but there's not a purple in the iridescent. And then in here, we have the most purple ones that are the ones that Andrew Cook and I were talking about, is that violet ochre that I had used on the rocks. And then that one, the mummy that he was using as well.
I am going to set aside
This one.
what I was working on there. And I think this is a good opportunity since everybody's asking. I want to play, and we'll swatch out a couple of the iridescent oil pastels that I was just using, and I'll tell you which colors we're playing with as I go.
Love.
So here I've got aluminum.
Now, I'm going to actually make you bigger again because I want them to really see those colors.
All right.
There we go.
And I've been using them, so I am just wiping them off a little bit with a paper towel so that you guys get the clean version here. I have got transparent blue. I have got the reddish brown gold, which is kind of like an iridescent russet kind of color. We've got red gold. We have got rich pale gold. We've got regular pale gold. They don't say regular, just pale gold.
So pretty.
We've
All the
got-
different varieties of golds.
I know it. Golden pearl. Rich gold. Red copper. And the iridescent white. Now, if you want to compare with that, here's our regular white. And of course, in the same set, we have black. And then I'll go ahead and hold this up close again.
Yes, please. You know, we need to see that sparkle. Those are lovely.
And you can even see the black on the black paper because of that difference in the sheen there.
Beautiful. Now I will say, let me pop me back up here too. I did swatch out all the watercolors on that paper too.
Ooh, lovely.
So I'm gonna remove you,
Remove me.
make mine a little bit bigger. You guys can see the different colors. So I believe from here over is the introduction set. So it's like a nice, almost like a little rainbow of colors where you get like a yellow, orange, red, just the purple. I believe this is the violet iridescent. There's that blue that is just absolutely stunning blue. And then is that green? Yes, that's an iridescent green. Now this set over here is the introduction set that has the gold, the copper, that has the light purple, the light blue, this is the yellow, trying to see it, yellow green, and then the iridescent silver. Which, I mean, who doesn't love that? Even like the areas where I got the really light wash, just stunning. Especially on that dark paper.
They are amazing.
Mm-hmm. And we switched again. Sorry guys, we keep swapping. I think
like
it's
it.
every time I
I like
remove one.
Mixes us up. It's good.
Can't get comfortable. All right, so I am just adding in some fun colors here and there, just to kind of break up the browns and yellow ochres and those rusty rock colors. So I'm using the, what is this color? The charcoal blue, which is lovely. And I had swatched them earlier on the black paper, but I also swatched them on white paper to really see the difference. And these are all the metallic ones down here, including these are the metallic ones down here. So like the difference of like how much they pop on that black paper is absolutely crazy. But that charcoal blue is this beautiful, kind of reminds me of like a Prussian blue, almost like a got a really dark desaturated kind of green tone to it, but lovely.
Yeah, that charcoal blue is one of my favorites for sure.
Mm.
It's even deeper than a Prussian blue though. It's
Yeah.
it's like if Prussian blue met indigo.
Yes, yes, it is. So anybody who's a lover of the Prussian blues, cough cough, Amanda, or
I know you
the
said that, and I said, what?
it's this right here. I'll let you play with this pastel once we're done.
So I have to admit that you were just showing how it looked on black versus white. And last week I was thinking, oh, I want to sound smart when this all happens. So I was trying to look up why iridescent looks brighter on a black surface than on a light surface. I really couldn't find anything definitively written about it.
Yeah.
So at least nothing that was, color oriented. So I decided I would kind of make a guesstimate about why I believe it's true.
Okay.
And I think it has to do with the way our eyes see color. And we know that black absorbs color and absorbs light, and white reflects back light and reflects back color. So I think with a black surface, it absorbs all of the background information for us, and the iridescent reflects back the light for us. So we see it much more clearly.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not, but it's what I think may be happening. And with a light surface, we're still able to see the reflecting back of the light from the paper. So while the iridescent is still there and it still looks amazing, it's much more subtle for us.
That makes sense to me. I am curious if anybody out there knows.
If anybody is a scientist, let me know if I am completely wrong.
Yep.
Even if you're not a scientist and I'm completely wrong, let me know.
Yeah. You happen to know the answer. I am definitely curious. But until I get a different answer, I'm just going to assume you are correct, because that sounds right, that it's reflecting light. That makes sense. All right, so knock back a little bit of this floor here. Right. I think I'm about done. And oh my goodness, it's almost 6:32. Look at that.
Time flies when we're having fun.
It really does when you're geeking out about sparkly metallic things. Now, I am going to actually add a little bit of this. What is this? The reddish brown gold. I do love this color. Iridescent one. Kind of pop that up here so it can reflect light just a little bit. And I think I'm about done. I think that's it for me.
Me too. I'll follow suit. So I can keep
All right.
forever.
One last look at the magical sparkly cave.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. That was fun. And I really love how I didn't this is why I'm using the paper to my advantage. So you know, I'm not covering up every little chunk of black. And so I'm using that as like those little shadows. And then that metallic is coming in my little kind of iridescent sparkle rocks and sparkles on the water. All right, and look at the colors you have. That is stunning.
They're asking if both of you can hold yourself a little higher so they can really see the details before you sign.
All right, hold on. We're gonna make, how about this? We're gonna make Andrew's larger, and then we're gonna make mine larger so you guys can really see. There you go. There's Andrew's. Oh, stunning. Look at that. Everybody ooh and ah and tell Andrew how amazing that is, because it is gorgeous. Look at those colors, the texture. Bravo.
Thank you. I'm seeing things I need to fix now.
Like, oh, this is the hard part about being an artist. It's never done. All right, let me replace it for me, and you guys can see mine. Hopefully I can get this on the right
Look at
camera.
that texture and that blending. It's beautiful.
So you can kind of see a little bit of like the sparkles in the rocks there that just shimmer through the non-metallic pastels. That's what I was looking for, especially that like little pop of gold. Yay! That was fun.
That was
Right,
fun.
let me pop you back up on the screen again here. I
And
guess we.
one quick thing I'm going to do that I didn't talk about as a possibility for oil pastel is I am just going to sign the corner of my painting here. I'm going to use this white pencil, but it's going to scratch back through the oil pastel.
Oh yeah. See, I like to have, I know this looks kind of like a butter knife. This is actually a tool that we use for clay, shaping clay. I usually do the same thing, although I'll go back through my whole art piece and kind of scratch back in textures and stuff. But I didn't have a lot of oil pastels down here. So I'm probably gonna just sign it with a pencil, which will scratch back in, but it'll also leave a little bit of graphite. So it'll have a color differentiation.
Good idea. Let's see.
Like
Our
this.
pencil showed up better for me too. All right.
I almost misspelled my name. Anybody else have that happen to you on occasion? Because yeah, I've done that. All right, now I'm gonna switch back to my face here. Hello, and then that way we can say goodbye. And I'm gonna probably need to switch back to the other camera as well. So
I am
please
in there
help me
now.
sort our camera situation out. And uh-oh, I don't see your other video. There it is. Hold on. Sorry, hold on one second. Haha, we did it. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for that. That was a blast. I've been having so much fun with these materials. And to anybody out there watching, I guarantee you're going to have just about as much fun as we were having too, because we really got very focused there.
We did. Thank you, Emmy, for having me and letting me play with the Fabriano Black Black paper with you. That was a lot of fun.
Well, everybody, a reminder again, if you are interested in any of the supplies that we were using, make sure to go through the website, JerrysArtarama.com, and type in today's class code, which is JL295 in the search bar, and that should bring up the teacher's cart, which has everything that we use today, except for the pastels, and I'll probably toss those into the cart, you know, just because, or some Finalizing pastels, because those will be lovely. But just a reminder though, next next Tuesday is the 4th of July, Independence Day, and we're not gonna be here because we're gonna be out celebrating. So I hope everybody out there watching has a wonderful time celebrating your 4th of July. Be safe, of course, make good decisions. But the next week after that, we will be back with another Zoom Jerry's live just like this. So it is going to also be only on Facebook. We will not be live to YouTube, but these are always uploaded to YouTube within 24 hours. So you guys can rewatch it that way. But I'm going to have another guest on, and it's going to be Jeff Olson, and we are going to be going over Amsterdam acrylics, and I'm very excited. He's always just like Andrew Cook. I got some amazing guest artists coming in here. So
Jeff is wonderful. I just saw him this weekend.
Yeah, we all know each other. But again, Andrew, though, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always so much fun.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
All right. Well, everybody, we will see you guys in 2 weeks because, holiday. But we will see you then. Thank you so much. Bye.